Good morning and welcome to the Masera briefing on the challenges facing working parents and juggling homeschooling. I'm really looking forward to this session. What we're going to have is each of our experts speak for a couple of minutes on their research. Just making sure that the recording is working. This session will be recorded and will be available for researchers and for journalists to access afterwards. We ask that questions do wait until the end, and that while you are not speaking that you hit mute on your button. But what we'll do now is I'll turn over to the experts and then we'll open it up for questions afterwards. We're going to run through Andrea, Penny and then Elizabeth. So Andrea, if you would like to unmute yourself and talk, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. So I probably have 3 tips for parents who are facing these sort of demands. The first one is basically go easy on yourself. There's so much out there. There's so many people posting things about what you could do or should do. It's production porn. I heard someone say the other day. So don't worry if the schedule doesn't work all the time. Don't worry if you can't do everything that you set out to do. So go easy on yourself and on your kids. The second point I'd like to make is around reframing, and it's not trying to belittle the challenges and the circumstances of what's happening. But instead, rather than say to yourself, oh my God, I've got to spend all this time at home with the kids, but reframe it in terms of this is a great opportunity to get to know my kids, to get to know myself more as a parent, and to be truly present, in the times that you do have with the kids, switching that mobile off and so on. The third point is around taking responsibility. I'm a parent myself, so I know exactly what it feels like when you feel that you're responsible for your kids' happiness or learning or whatever. It's not your whole responsibility, I suppose, is the point I'd like to make. Share it with your partner, share it with your online friends and parents, but also with kids themselves, like talk to them about what they want to do and how. So that would be my 3 main tips, if you like, for parents coping with these demands.
Fantastic, thank you so much. We'll now move through to Penny. Penny, if you'd like to speak to your area of research, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I think, I guess to pick up on some of what Andrea said, I think this is a tough time and we're juggling a lot. And I think it becomes tougher because none of this was things that we planned or that we expected is happening to us. And so that does take a bit of reframing. I think what can really help is communicating with your children about what the new normal is going to look like and sort of working with them, because that helps you to juggle school and work and everything else, and to make sure that we look after the whole family. So I think, setting a routine that communicates expectations about when you're going to be available to help them, when you're not going to be available because you have a work commitment, can be really helpful. It may be that for younger children who are not yet independent learners, or for older children who are not yet independent learners, that just involves creating a different activity for them, or setting them up with a little bit of free time, even Netflix if you need to, if it's a really important kind of commitment. I think we need to focus on what we can do, but what we're simply, when we are simply asking too much of ourselves. And I think with that kind of rough schedule, that helps everybody to know what's coming up, to know what to expect, and to know when mum and dad are available and not available. I think, it is really important, if we're setting a schedule, to not stick to it so ruthlessly that we send ourselves crazy. So I think if it's not working, then we adapt and we throw it out the window and we have a day off and we come back again afterwards. I think that's really important. So I think, having an expectation of what's coming up really helps kids. That then in turn helps us because they understand what's happening. But we do need to be adaptive to, when everybody's just having a bad day. And I think, I guess the third sort of part of that is acknowledging not just children's emotions, because we've heard a lot about that, and it is really important to understand where they're feeling sad or frustrated, but acknowledging our own emotions as well, acknowledging when things aren't quite going right, or we're feeling frustrated, or we're feeling kind of like there's a bit too much going on. We want to be careful that we're not negatively venting, because that creates a culture and an environment for children that's tough, and it makes it tougher for us as well. So we want to be careful that we're cautious about how we do that, but we need to look after our own mental health. And, you know, so we need to be connecting with friends virtually, of course. We need to be exercising. We need to be setting realistic expectations for ourselves and thinking about what can wait until later. You know, again, it's not about productivity, it's just about managing everybody for the next, you know, possibly 6 months. And so I think acknowledging our emotions, getting on top of our own feelings is going to help the whole family, you know, and we can do that for the children and for ourselves.
Great, thank you so much, Penny, and that makes me feel a lot better about my whiteboard that I write out for the kids each day for their activities, and when please don't come anywhere near them because I've got a Zoom briefing that I'm doing with researchers from around the country. Liz, would you now be able to jump in with your section, please?
Yes, hi. I think that picking up on both the previous points is that what's important for parents to me is that they actually need to recognise what their role is in supporting their children's learning at home. They're actually parents and they're not the child's teacher. And I think sometimes that gets lost in some of the rhetoric around homeschooling. So that as a parent, it's not our job to be the child's teacher. It's our job to support our children and to assist them when they're experiencing difficulties or feeling anxious and stressed. And also to recognise that, and as Penny said before, that both children and ourselves are experiencing disequilibrium at the moment, which is part of the challenges that we're now being faced, which is part of our everyday lives. I think the other important thing is to remember that as parents, we are equal partners with the child's teachers. The teachers are in the background. They're doing an absolutely fantastic job in trying to support the children to stay engaged in their learning, to provide fun, interesting, engaging learning opportunities for the children to keep their learning happening, and to continue to feel successful. So teachers want us as parents to be in the background supporting them to support the children in the way that we can so that they can do their job of being a teacher and supporting the children to stay successful learners. Children need to feel a sense of belonging and connection, as do all human beings. And school, as they know it in the past, is not what they're going to be having in the future. So maintaining a sense of belonging and connection is really vital for children to stay engaged and feel successful, both as learners, but as human beings and as young people. So they're being challenged to maintain the connections that give them a sense of belonging, as we all do, because we're all feeling isolated. We're feeling disconnected from work, from family, from friends. And children are feeling the same way. They're being disconnected from school. They're expected to learn in an environment that's not what they're used to. But they're also disconnected from those social networks and social connections that are very, very important in a school setting. School's not just about learning, it's about social connections. So I think that parents need to allow children time to feel disengaged. As I know, I've been working from home for 2 weeks, and there is times that I'm thinking, I just want to turn the computer off. I don't want to do this anymore. And so they're also feeling frustrated, they're feeling confused, and sometimes they just want to say no to yet again another challenge. And so as parents, allowing children that time to feel like that is really, really important. And as Penny was saying, acknowledging that we as parents are feeling the same and modelling that to children, sort of modelling how we're feeling so that the children can have a sense of that it's okay to feel like this and it's okay to share how we're feeling. And then to sit down as a team, the child, the parent, well, what can we do about this? How can we put some things in place to help us move forward? Because as Penny said, you don't want to just vent, you've got to be able to move forward. Children need to feel that they've got a sense of control, and giving them an opportunity to work with the parents on how to get that control back is a really important way of building those connections again. And yes, as parents, you can only do the best you can do. Teachers can only do the best they can do, and children can only do the best they can do. And we're all doing our best. And I think we have to recognise that at this point in time, best is best. You can't do better than best. And best has to be good enough. And give yourselves a break to acknowledge that you are doing your best in these circumstances that we're all facing.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much for that. I found that very interesting. I'm going to open it up for questions now, and perhaps I might jump in first with a question that arose for me while you were all talking. And I might put this to you first, Liz, because it sort of came out of what you said, but I think you'll all have some interesting things to say about this. Those parents, like myself, like a lot of us, who have kept our kids home and are trying to support our kids in the home environment, it's looking more and more like schools are going to stay open for essential workers. So there will be kids who are still in a classroom setting being taught by professionals. What advice do you give to us so our kids aren't disadvantaged by the fact that we're not professionals? How do we make sure that our kids are keeping up to a level that at the end of this year, for those kids who have stayed in classroom settings with the professionals through 2020, our kids aren't way behind where those other children might be?
I think one of the key things is to have dialogue with the teachers. The teachers are there. They are the experts. They are the educators. They know how to teach children. We're parents, and we could only follow their advice. But I think having the honest conversations with the teachers, talking to the teachers about how your child is managing, how your child is coping, and also what do they expect from you as a parent. You know, we've got to manage our lives and we're not the teacher. So working as a partner with them, and I would think that teachers will be very welcoming of dialogue with parents around how the children are travelling at home and how you're finding this and asking for tips and supports. I think the other thing is to try and do, if children are in the classroom, physically in the classroom, to try to get the teachers to set up some Zoom sessions, which I know most of them are now doing, so that these children can connect with each other, so that you're getting a sense about what's actually happening for those other children. And to maintain those connections. But we're a partner with the teacher, and the teachers want us to support them as they want to support you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Penny and Andrea, do either of you have anything to add to that? Sorry, I'm just adding some more people.
I think, sorry, so I think, I guess kind of adding to what Liz said, teachers have done an amazing job to put together all of these online learning packages, and whether your child's sort of, in the classroom experiencing those, or entirely online, or they're taking home packs, and I know that's varying between different sectors and different school systems. I think, the materials that have been developed look amazing. I mean, I'm looking at my 5-year-old daughter's kindy materials, and, they set out the activities that children should be doing, and they're meeting the learning outcomes that they would otherwise be meeting. And so I think what we can do as well is have faith that the teachers have done a great job and have worked in really kind of difficult conditions, and continuing on that track that's being set up for parents is enough. I don't think we need to sort of think that we all of a sudden need teaching qualifications, because the teachers have done a lot of that work. And so I think it's simply a matter of helping students to engage with that, or helping your children to engage with that, recognising when they're hitting a roadblock, and that might be a matter of either reaching out to the teacher and saying, actually, I've got a kind of a question about this one, we're not quite understanding or getting through this particular task, or recognising that actually it's because disengagement's out the window today, and maybe we'll just come back in a few hours after we've had a walk with the dog or something. So I think trusting that the teachers have those learning outcomes and those activities set up helps us to take a bit of the pressure off, and trusting in those materials. I mean, one of the best kind of forms of education for children at home, and that's, that kind of to supplement what they're doing, is just having open, rich conversations with children all the time about, their experiences, what's happening, cooking with them, sharing activities when we have the opportunity. And those are tasks we have to be doing anyway, but we can turn those into family activities, and there's a lot of kind of rich engagement that sort of supplements everything else as well. So I think we can trust the teachers, but also know that we provide other opportunities and other ways as parents.
Yeah, and I would just pick up on that trusting the teachers part, because I think we've all got a new and perhaps additional appreciation for what teachers do. But I think we've got to trust the teachers to be able to understand our kids, and if they do fall behind on certain things, when they do go back at school, that they're able to work with kids. I'm just picking up on Julie's point too, that some teachers are not open to questions because they're being overwhelmed. And that is certainly the case, and I know that. But I would suggest that that isn't a permanent situation. I know from my own experience that it is overwhelming at the start, but as soon as things start to settle in terms of people being more comfortable with technology, that they may be more approachable down the track.
Fantastic, thank you. One of the issues that's been raised a lot through various forums is the issue for Year 12s and how parents support Year 12s and the stress that goes along with Year 12 broadly, but in this new context. Do any of you have specific advice for students in Year 12 or parents of students who are in Year 12 this year, and how they are supported this year?
Year 12 is not necessarily my area of expertise, because I am really more in the early years. But I think, having had 3 children going through Year 12 in normal circumstances, I know that students feel really stressed, and parents feel really that level of, is that sense of control, is that helplessness about being able to support their children. They want their children to do as well as they can, but they really don't necessarily know how to help them with that. So again, I think if your Year 12 person is feeling really stressed, and they will be feeling particularly anxious because it's a challenging time at the best of times, I think again is to be there to listen to them, let them talk about and share their frustrations and their anxieties and their stresses, and then work with them to think about what are some strategies we could be putting into place to enable this, to work through these things. How can we work with your teacher? What are the things that we can be doing to make this easier for you? But also just recognizing and accepting and acknowledging to them that you are hearing their levels of concern and stress and frustration, because sometimes that they don't want you to do anything. They know you can't do anything, but they just want to feel heard, and I think that's really important.
I think to add to that, I think a lot of Year 12s have very good self-regulation, self-learning skills already. That's something that they've been taught throughout throughout the school years. And so if that's the case, I think it may be much more about supporting children, I guess students, adolescents by that age, emotionally. So backing up again on what Liz said, it's about kind of, talking about, okay, a lot is uncontrollable, some things are unknown at the moment, but what parts can we control, and what's going to help us kind of move forward the next week and the next day? And some of those answers will come dealing with that uncertainty in the meantime. If you do have a Year 12 student who perhaps is still working on those self-regulation and self-learning skills, then not having the regular or kind of as regular face-to-face school contact may just demand a little bit more of your parental support in kind of keeping them on track and working with them to make sure they're keeping up with the study activities. But I think, again, it's probably the emotional side that's going to be most important at the moment until all the answers about how exams work and everything come out.
Okay, well, I'm very conscious of the time and the fact that everybody is still adapting to our changing world order and how we're all operating within that. So I'm going to close this off now. If the journalists have questions or queries for our specific experts, the contact details for those experts were included in the expert comment that went out earlier today. Thank you very much to the experts who have put the time and effort into creating those comments and being part of this today. This was very quickly organised, and we really appreciate that you all have a lot of demands on your time at the moment in supporting your own work and your own children and your own lives and all of those things. So providing some advice and guidance for the rest of us is greatly appreciated all the time, but particularly at the moment. So thank you everyone for coming, and good luck with the next little bit of these challenges.